Why loneliness feels different after awakening. Carl Jung on solitude and the true self. There is a quiet confusion many people experience after personal growth begins. You become more aware, more reflective, more selective, and suddenly loneliness feels different. Carl Jung believed this shift is not a sign that something is wrong, but proof that something fundamental is changing within the psyche. Before awakening, loneliness feels like rejection, abandonment, or failure. After awakening, it begins to resemble space. And understanding this difference, Jung said, is essential to psychological maturity. Jung observed that most people fear loneliness because they are not yet in relationship with themselves. When the inner world is unexplored, silence feels threatening. The mind rushes to fill the void with people, noise, validation, and distraction. Jung called this outward dependency a sign that the ego is disconnected from a self. The ego seeks mirrors to confirm its existence, while the self does not need confirmation. This is why loneliness hurts most when identity depends on external approval. According to Jung, the early stages of life are dominated by adaptation. We learn how to belong, how to be accepted, how to function. This creates the persona, the social identity shaped to meet expectations. The persona is useful, but when over-identified with, it creates an inner emptiness. Loneliness at this stage is the psyche's signal that something essential has been neglected. It is not a lack of people, but a lack of inner connection. As individuation begins, something paradoxical happens. You may become more alone externally, yet feel less empty internally. Jung believed this is because the psyche is withdrawing projections. You stop seeking yourself in others. You stop expecting relationships to complete what only inner integration can provide. This phase can feel uncomfortable because familiar dynamics fall away. Jung warned that growth often feels like loss before it feels like freedom. At the heart of this transformation lies the encounter with the shadow. The shadow contains not only fear and pain, but also independence, depth, and emotional self-sufficiency. Many people were taught that being alone means being unwanted. Jung challenged this belief. He saw solitude as the natural state of a person who is becoming whole. The shadow teaches you how to sit with yourself without escaping, numbing, or performing. Jung made a critical distinction between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the pain of being separated from oneself. Solitude is the peace of being at home within oneself. The awakened individual begins to experience solitude not as isolation, but as clarity. Thoughts slow down. Emotional reactions soften. The need to constantly explain, impress, or attach begins to dissolve. This is not withdrawal from life, it is deeper participation from a grounded center. As this shift deepens, relationships change. Jung observed that the individuated person no longer seeks intensity for validation. Chaos loses its appeal. Drama feels exhausting rather than exciting. You begin to value presence over stimulation, depth over quantity. This often leads to fewer relationships, but more authentic ones. Jung emphasized that psychological health is not measured by how many people surround you, but by how truthfully you can relate. One of Jung's most profound insights was that meaning emerges in stillness. When external noise fades, the unconscious begins to speak through intuition, symbols, and quiet insight. Solitude becomes fertile ground for creativity and inner guidance. This is why Jung himself spent long periods in isolation, not out of avoidance, but out of devotion to inner truth. He believed that without solitude, individuation cannot fully unfold. In the later stages of awakening, loneliness loses its emotional charge. You may still desire connection, but you no longer fear its absence. Jung described this as emotional sovereignty, the ability to remain psychologically intact regardless of external circumstances. You are open, but not dependent. Connected, but not dissolved. This balance allows relationships to be chosen rather than needed. Carl Jung believed that the individual who has learned to be alone has discovered something rare and powerful. They are no longer running from themselves, nor using others to escape inner silence. They can sit with their thoughts, their contradictions, and their unanswered questions without panic. This is not detachment, it is integration. And according to Jung, a person who has reached this state is no longer lonely in the way the world understands it. They have found companionship within, and from that quiet center, they can finally meet others without losing themselves.